You're listening to the ADHD Support Talk Radio podcast. ADHD Support Talk is sponsored by ADDclasses.com. Visit www.addclasses.com to sign up for free webinars today. Hello and welcome back to ADHD Support Talk Radio. I am your co-host, Productivity and ADHD Coach Lynne Edris. I teach smart, creative professionals how to create real-life, sustainable ways to get their to-do lists under control, accomplish what they intend each day, perform at the level of their abilities consistently, and still have time and energy for the rest of life. I'm a woman with ADHD myself, and you can learn more about me, what I do, the programs and services I offer at my website, which is www.coachingadvantages.com. That's coaching ADD Vantages, ADDVANTAGES.com. And when you sign up on my website or text the keyword HACK, H-A-C-K, to 444-999, I'll send you my 7 foolproof productivity hacks to help you add hours of free time to your weeks by investing just a few smart minutes each day. Today, I want to talk about what I call your unique operating system, or UOS. I've been a coach for about 11 years now. Sometimes I lose track. And I've helped thousands of individuals over the years. I've never counted, but at least thousands. And there are two universal threads that just about all the people who come to my coaching practice for help have in common. So of the thousands of people I've worked with over the years, there are 2 universal things they have in common, 2 universal characteristics they share. Number 1, they try really hard. And it can be amazing to hear my clients talk. I mean, they get up every single day and intend to do their best. They intend to be their best. So there's no shortage of effort and there's no shortage of good intentions. The second thing that they have in common is kind of contradictory to the first. So even though they start each day with the best of intentions and they really try, they also feel like they're not living up to their potential. And wow, I mean, what a painful combination that can be. I'm sure just about every person listening to this knows exactly what I'm talking about, especially if you have ADHD yourself, if you care for someone who does, or you're listening to this because you have some ADD type characteristics. I'll bet you've felt that way yourself. Like you're trying and you have the right intentions, but you still fall short of reaching your potential consistently. What a hard and frustrating way to go through life, right? And it's more than hard and frustrating, it's painful. I know, as a woman with ADHD myself, I know it personally, and having worked with so many people over the last decade plus as a productivity and ADHD coach, I know it professionally. I hear about it every single day. But you know what else I know? Without a doubt, unequivocally, I know that you are hardwired for success. I know that you have what you need to be successful inside you already. And no, this is not some pie in the sky, go team, rah, rah, pep talk. I'm a coach. I'm not a cheerleader, although I do my share of cheering for my clients until they start to cheer for themselves. But this is not fantasy, and it's not some fanciful, magical, optimistic thinking. It's a fact. It's something I help my clients tap into every day. It's what I call your unique operating system, or your UOS. Your UOS is what comes natural to you. It's what is easiest to you. It's what already works for you, and most of us aren't using it to make our lives easier, achieve more success, and fulfill our potential. Your UOS comprises your unique talents, your strengths and ways of doing things. It includes how you process information naturally and how you organize things naturally and more. It's unique to you. Your UOS and your strengths are different than mine, which are different than anyone else's. Hence the word unique, obviously. And when we tap into our unique operating system, we can manage our challenges by utilizing our strengths. So it's like, overcoming your challenges by leaning on the things that you're already come naturally to you. And it's what we call in ADHD coaching a strength-based approach to managing ADHD. And I'm sure you've heard that expression before. So here's what I mean. Obviously, ADHD has some significant challenges on its own, but many of us with ADHD are less than effective because we're working against our strengths rather than working with our strengths. We try hard every day, of course, but we feel like we're coming up short of our potential because we can't seem to stay in front of our to-dos, our calendars, and our responsibilities consistently. And it's not a coincidence that most of us who feel like we are underperforming are trying to plug ourselves into someone else's way of doing things, someone else's systems and tools. Once in a while, we might get lucky and find something that sticks for a while, something that works for us for a while, but most of the time, those changes are short-lived. You might do well in the beginning when you're full of excitement and hope, but you can't sustain the required effort for the long haul. Most of the time, those changes don't last in any meaningful way that you can rely on. So you try another system, another gadget, another gizmo, another app. You read another, self-help book or another blog or watch another YouTube video, and you start from scratch over and over and over again, hoping to find, the one. Like a hopeless romantic waiting for Prince or Princess Charming, to save the day. And with that magic glass slipper in hand, I'm sticking with my metaphor here, you find your fits like a glove productivity system, or your fits like a glove calendar, or your fits like a glove way to keep track of your to-dos. Eventually, hope and promise evaporate, right? And you feel like a failure all over again. I know this sounds familiar, and if you're still listening, I guarantee it feels familiar to you. But you're not alone. Many of my clients consider themselves GTD dropouts or Covey failures or bullet journal, bombs. But most of my clients are extremely well versed in productivity and organizational methods and theory. They're well read and they're well practiced, and most of them have bought into far more than their share of gadgets, gizmos, and gurus with very little lasting change to show for it. They've spent a lot of time and energy and money trying to plug themselves into someone else's operating system, like trying to run a Windows program on a Mac computer and vice versa. It just doesn't work. Why? Because the solutions that work best for you are not in an app or a book or a planner. The solutions that work best for you are in your unique operating system. So simplistically, there are some basic components of what I call your unique operating system, or UOS. And they include your processing style, your organizational style, your interests, your habits, your energy flow, and your beliefs or values. So let me explain. Your processing style is how you learn and process information naturally. There are different theories on this and lots of different models on learning and processing styles, but generally they're, visual or verbal or, verbal/auditory, kinesthetic, conceptual, emotional, intuitive, and so on. You can read lots of things on the web about different learning styles, but the bottom line is that you need to know what works for you. And I do exercises with my clients to help them uncover their processing style. And I'm going to try to give you a quick exercise that I do with my clients. And it's not going to work crazy well since this isn't like a back and forth as it would be with a client, but I'm going to read you a series of words and numbers, and I want you to try to remember them. Don't write them down though. That would be cheating, and that's going to defeat the purpose. And then I'm going to pause for a few seconds and I'm going to ask you to repeat them back. And of course, I can't hear if you got them right or not. So that, this doesn't work perfectly, but actually whether or not you got them right is not what's most important here. So here we go. Ready? Again, don't write them down, right? Don't write them down for yourself at all. Don't cheat. Okay. Red, 21, blue, 14, yellow, 37. Okay. So if we were working together, I'd ask you to repeat them back to me, and most people don't get them 100% correct, and that's really actually not super important. What I want you to pay attention to is how you tried and how you worked to try to remember them. Did you picture the numbers and the colors? Did you picture the numbers as the colors? Did you repeat them to yourself out loud or mentally in your mind? Did you air type or trace them out in the air? If you pictured them, you probably have a strong visual component to how you process. If you heard me saying them as you tried to recall them, if you could hear my voice, you probably have a strong auditory or oral component. If you air typed them or traced them in the air, you probably have a strong kinesthetic or tactile component or visual component to how you process. Most of us have a combination of different styles. If you noticed connections or patterns in the words and numbers, you might process more using conceptual modes where you see the big picture and the connections first. Obviously, again, this exercise doesn't work crazy well when it's one-sided, but I will also ask clients, think about the last thing that you misplaced that you spent some time looking for. What were you looking for and how were you looking for it when you were looking? What was the process you went through and what were you looking for when you were searching? Was it the color? Was it something else? Was it a shape? Was it a feel? Again, it's tough to do and explain in a podcast, but if you Google learning style or processing style test or assessment, you might come up with actually you will come up with a ton of things that you can play around with to give you some insight into what works best for you naturally. Next, we want to look at your organizational style, how you organize information and physical objects in space naturally. Are you a pile maker? Are you a clusterer? Do you like to spread out? Think about the things you rarely lose or misplace. Think about what your tendencies are in your workspaces. What already works for you has the key to what kind of organization style is most effective for you. And before you say nothing works and there's nothing that you rarely lose or misplace, I guarantee you that you're wrong. I've never, ever had a client in all these years that I couldn't uncover something that worked for them organizationally or some way in which they are more naturally organized. Next, you want to look at your interests. What stimulates you? What gets your motor running, so to speak? And again, this is going to be unique for each of us. Then there are habits. What do you already do regularly? What is consistent for you? What already works and what you already have in place is going to be easiest for you to expand upon because that's what comes naturally. And then we're going to look at your energy flow. I'm talking about your cognitive and your physical energy. What times of day are you most clear, focused, and productive? And what are the times when you're most sluggish, cognitively and physically? Keep a log for a few days and see what patterns repeat themselves. Find an easy way to do this. And once you have a good idea of how your energy sort of ebbs and flows in a day, you can plan appropriately and you can start to manipulate variables that might influence the lows of your energy level and try to make them a little bit less, kind of impactful. And then, of course, come your beliefs and values. This is that between the ears stuff I'm always talking about. How you see yourself, how you see the world, right and wrong. And this is a huge one. And it's often the most important piece for us to work on when we want to make changes that last. So tying the things that you want to do to the things that are more important to you in the bigger picture, sort of deeper sense. And then also, how you see yourself is huge. I always say, I'm sure many of you have heard me say this before, that no matter what you do, no matter what systems, no matter what tools, no matter what changes you try to put in place, none of that is going to stick if the little voice in your head is telling you that you can't do it. You're never going to reach your potential if deep down you don't believe that you can. Again, what comes naturally is what's easiest for you. What is easiest for you requires less effort for the positive payback. And when we find the right balance between effort and payback, motivation becomes less of an issue. So the solutions that work best for you are in your unique operating system. When you're using your natural strengths, talents, and inclinations, it's easier to be consistent and stick with what you're doing, which in turn makes it more likely that you're going to follow through. And consistency and follow through are fundamental to making lasting change. So I'm going to give you 6 simple steps that you can take today to start to tap into your own unique operating system. First, uncover your processing style. I think you probably knew I was going here, right? How do you remember things most easily? Do you repeat them to yourself? Do you picture them in your mind? Do you touch them or something else? There are lots of exercises you can do to help you uncover how you naturally process information, which would be usually the same as how you learn most easily. Most of us have a combination of processing styles that are most natural to us. And when we work with our natural style, life is just easier. Then I want you to identify your organizational style. Are you a pile maker? Many of us with ADHD are. We tend to need to see stuff sort of visually. Do you tend to cluster like things together? Do you need certain areas clear and uncluttered to function well, while other areas can be a mess without impacting you much? I am definitely that way. There are certain parts of my office that I need to be clear and clean. There are certain parts of my office that I could care less what they look like. So cueing into those kinds of preferences are all indications of your organizational style. And you want to create systems and tools that work with your natural style rather than against it. And that can make it so much easier to be consistent and to improve performance overall. And start to take note of your energy flow and find a way to do this easily. Each of us has a natural rhythm to our energy throughout the day. There are peaks and valleys in clarity, in focus, and in processing power, and they ebb and flow throughout each day. So pay attention to your high spots, your super clear, super focused, super productive, great processing points in your day. And pay attention to your low spots and try to plan your activities correspondingly. For those low spots, then you can play with what might help you, make them be a little bit less low. Eating a good snack with some protein and a little bit of carbohydrate, maybe moving your body, doing a high interest activity at the beginning to give yourself a boost of dopamine and so on. But find a simple way to take note of your energy flow. Again, simple is important for us. So it could be as much, as simple as, putting when you find yourself with your forehead pretty much planted to your desk surface or completely out of energy, you put a minus sign, next to the time on your calendar, something really, really simple, a sad face, an X at the low spots, a plus at the high spots, whatever that is, but find a way to do it easily and then start to see what the patterns are. And then you can start to see what kinds of things can impact those patterns. Next, I want you to find what already works. You already have the secrets to your success, kind of hidden in your life already. So what are you already doing that works? What are the things that you never or rarely ever misplace? Again, don't tell me there aren't any, because I guarantee you if we were on a coaching call right now, I could help you find them. So look at your favorite activities for a hint, your hobbies, your favorite pastimes. Very few avid golfers misplace their favorite shoes, and very few devoted fishermen misplace their favorite rods. So I promise you there's something if you look. Ask yourself, what are you doing with those things, the things you rarely misplace? How are you thinking about those things? How are you handling and managing? How are you storing those things in ways that are different from the things that you frequently search for? So building on what works rather than trying to reinvent the wheel all the time is a much faster path to success. And then I want you to identify your most solid habits. What habits do you have that are almost as sure as the rising and setting sun? What are the most common threads among those habits? What about those habits is easy for you? What's the payback for those habits? Those habits can be the cornerstone of your natural foundation of structure. Most of my clients need some help setting up a good supportive structure for themselves that isn't too strict and it isn't too loose, just, solid enough to support them. So those habits you already have in place are going to be good cornerstones for that structure, and they're going to be good insight if you can really look at them and sort of dissect them. And then finally, get clear on your strengths. What are you good at? What do you do so easily that you've forgotten that other people might not be so good at it? What do people often come to you for help with? What's second nature for you that the people around you often lean on? This one is hard for probably most of my clients, but it's an important one to look at for uncovering your natural strengths. When you can learn your strengths and appreciate them, you can apply them to your areas of struggle and you can compensate so much more easily for the things you're not great at. So I really do honestly, and again, this is not like, some rah-rah hype, but I honestly believe, and I have seen time and time again, that you have the keys to your own success inside of you. Uncovering your unique operating system is essential to making the most of your time, energy, and abilities. So working with your natural strengths, your natural tendencies, and your talents, again, your UOS, your unique operating system, is the key to unlocking your potential. It's really fundamental to the work I do with my clients in developing systems, tools, and solutions they need to bring their performance up to the level of their abilities. And it's how we ADHD coaches help our clients get their performance in sync with their potential so that they can go from, overwhelmed and stuck to unstoppable and fulfilled. So I hope I gave you some ideas or at least got you thinking a little bit about what your natural strengths and tendencies are. So if you have questions, if you have comments, please join us in the ADHD Support Talk Facebook group where you can ask questions or comments on the episode. Again, I'm Coach Lynne Edris, and I hope you've gotten something to think about today and maybe a different way to think about the way you work and what might work best for you. So please visit my website. Again, it's www.coachingaddvantages.com, Coaching Advantages with 2 Ds, where you can find out more about me, the programs and services I offer, and sign up there, or text the keyword hack to 444-999, and I'll send you 7 foolproof productivity hacks to help you add hours of free time to your week by spending just a few minutes a little smarter each day. Thanks again for listening. I always appreciate your attention. Catch you next time.